But I did want to ask you because you mentioned James Maddison obviously suspended. He might have been the answer to this question prior to that. But in terms of the danger men, in terms of the key players, in terms of the men in form, I guess, really, because you can't look at the back as we've just spoken about because there's just nobody there who can stand up to that question. But in terms of the people who are sort of stepping up and becoming key players for Spurs right now, is it Dom Solanke? Is it Kulusevski's been really good? Is it one of those two?
It's probably those two. I think Brendan Johnson is threatening to be in that list, but I think he's a purple patch player where after he, as everyone knows, deactivated his Instagram, he went on a run of scoring 10 goals in 10 games. He hasn't really done much since then. So when the conditions are right, Johnson can be really effective and get himself on the score sheet. But in terms of players that we can rely on a little bit more consistently, Kulusevski has been comfortably our best player this season. He's kind of taken on the role of James Maddison and Heung-min Son, both of whom just haven't really been at it this season. He's been creative. He's been scoring goals. He's been, his work rate out of possession is absolutely fantastic. And I think without Kulusevski, somehow our situation would actually be a little bit worse this season. And with Solanke, he still really hasn't found any consistency, but I think whatever form he's in, if he gets the ball 12 yards out from goal, there's a good chance it's going to end up in the back of the net, like that brilliant header against Newcastle. It was a phenomenal ball in from Porro, but Solanke still had a lot to do to beat the defender and get his head on it. So we can certainly rely on the two of them. And in terms of players who've stepped it up, Archie Gray has been. He's not been the perfect centre back, but you wouldn't expect that of him. He's been better than I think any of us could have asked of him, and he just approaches everything with the right mentality, with the right attitude, and I'm a lot more confident about his future. I was already very confident about his future, but a lot more now with how he stepped up in centre back. And looking at Saturday, Lucas Bergvall was absolutely phenomenal. He controlled that game for us when we did have a little bit of control in it. He was keeping the tempo ticking over. His switches of play were brilliant, and he was taken off after an hour. The only reason I can think that would happen is because he's expected to start tomorrow and try and make this game something we can have a bit of a handle on.
No, absolutely. I was impressed with Bergvall. I was going to mention him. I know it's hard to sort of name him as a key player because he's only really come into the side in the past few weeks, it feels like. But I was impressed with him. Look like he's got legs. Look like he's got technical ability as well. And as you mentioned, Archie Gray in the circumstances, I think he's been pretty valiant in his efforts, given what's gone on around him and the barrage of attacks he has to face more often than not. You touched on potentially Bergvall there being taken off with this in mind. Let's do it then. Predicted 11 for this one if you can.
Oh God, anyone could be injured in the next 24 hours. I'll put Kinski in goal just because he got that work permit yesterday, and Spurs kind of seems very loud about getting the journalist to put that out there. Pedro Porro at right back. Radu Dragusin came off at half time against Newcastle, but there was a sickness bug running around the camp last week, which seems to be why he came off. So I don't think there's a physical injury there. So I'll put him with Archie Gray at centre back, Jed Spence at left back. I think Lucas Bergvall will start, as I said, because he was rested for the end of that game against Newcastle. Bentancur was suspended for Newcastle, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't come straight back in. We probably have Kulusevski at the 10, Johnson outright, Solanke in the middle, and then Werner or Son didn't start on at the weekend, so I'd probably put him out on the left. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Werner because Son, the form just hasn't been there this season. He seems to have lost that yard of pace, and he's getting less and less influential in games that we play. So I'll go for Son, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Timo Werner. I'd be
Yeah,
very sad if it's Timo Werner though.
it's interesting that though because you're right. Son does look like there is just something missing. That X factor has escaped him, potentially temporarily, potentially forever. Who knows? It comes to all footballers, but that area of the pitch is an area that most teams look to exploit against Liverpool. Certainly, if it's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I'm not going to go deep into that conversation right now. It's not the time or the place, but there is a situation there. There certainly was the weekend against Manchester United. So if it's Conor Bradley, that's maybe not so much of a thing. You don't need to highlight or potentially put so much pressure on it. But yeah, Son or Timo Werner, because Werner, what he lacks in the quality and the composure, he definitely has in the pace. So yeah, it's a difficult one for you. Just finally, I'll sort of get a loose prediction for you heading into this game, but I did want to ask. It's foolish of me to ask this question, Matt, so forgive me. But Ange Postecoglou, is he likely to learn from his mistakes from the game that this exact fixture a few weeks ago? Like you're laughing, so probably not. I'd say.
Yeah, there's more chance we beat you lot 8-0. And I'm not particularly against that because look, there's I'm sure as everyone knows a massive split in the fan base now. People who want Ange in, people who want Ange out. But the way I look at it is this: he's come in to a team that has a squad that's a mishmash of six or seven different managers that came before it, and I don't think there's a single manager in world football who could actually get a consistent, coherent style of football out of these players. And he's come in with a long-term promise. He signed a 5-year contract, which isn't something Daniel Levy has done, I think, since Pochettino. And he's told us what he was going to do. He said, "I'm going to play this football. I'm going to be unforgiving in it. I'm not going to stray away from it. This is what I'll do. Hire me if you want it." And he's doing that. He's delivering exactly what he told. For me, since the club gave him the contract on the basis of that promise, it's up to them to give him the players. And I like the way Postecoglou is. He's playing this style of football, and the players who are here now who are going to stay are going to be so well versed in what he expects of them and what needs to be done that if a big if and when we get that squad that's needed, these players are ready. They're good to go, and that's when he start reaping the benefits of what we're doing. The problem is I don't trust the board to give him those players. So I think Ange's part in this, again, not agreed upon by the entire fan base. I think he's going about it the right way, but I'm just not convinced it's going to end in the way that we want because our board are the way that they are.
No, absolutely. And I guess it's difficult because I make you right. I don't know the ins and outs of the entire recruitment or Spurs' sort of transfer history or what could happen in the future, obviously. But that's a big part in this. But I guess on the flip side of that, if results continue in the way that they do, certainly from a Premier League point of view, the cup may well take care of itself. Who knows, an FA Cup, etc. But yeah, there will come a pressure with the results, I guess, because if you keep slipping down the table, I think you're 12th at time of recording right now. Like, that's not where Spurs should or want to be. So if that suddenly looks like 14th in a few weeks' time, yeah, that magnifying glass is going to be Ange. And as you say, hell or high water, he's playing this same way. Nothing's going to change. And it's, yeah, to his detriment a little bit at times. Finally, very finally, prediction, what are we saying?
Oh, I hate this fixture, by the way. Of all the fixtures, I hate playing Liverpool the most. And the main reason for that is my dad is a Liverpool fan.
Okay.
So imagine the 1st of June 2019 in the Hayes household. It wasn't fun. And I brought him to a game a couple of years ago, and I ended up in the cop end when Newlop beat us 4-3.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
there have
Jota.
been some
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Jota, right in front of me. I didn't cry, I promise. I mean, you're going to win. And my biggest fear about this is if we have somehow a magical day and we beat you 2 or 3-0, it's not over. If you beat us 2 or 3-0, it's over. And that's my fear because with the way we play, anything can be turned around. Without knowing too much about the strength that you guys are going to go with, you're going to beat us, and I've accepted that. I'll go 3-1 to Liverpool and hope it's no more than that.